Welcome to the discussion. My guests today, Lance Spencer, the Client Executive Vice President for the Air Force at AT&T Public Sector. Lance, welcome to the discussion.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Bill Lancey, the Client Executive Vice President for Navy and Marine Corps at AT&T Public Sector. Bill, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for hosting us.
And Jamie Gatto, the Client Executive Director for Navy Enterprise Networks for AT&T Public Sector. Jamie, welcome to the discussion.
Thanks for having us.
So when Hurricane Michael went through the Florida Panhandle last year, everybody knows, Tyndall Air Force Base was largely wiped out. AT&T has a capability called FirstNet. It's a national public safety broadband network, and we're under contract to the Department of Commerce to deliver FirstNet nationwide. All the states and territories are part of FirstNet now. So because of FirstNet, because of our investment in building out the network to support the FirstNet enterprise, AT&T had terrific service through the hurricane in the Florida Panhandle. Our availability was phenomenal because we've invested and built out in that area, but also across the country. The other thing that comes with FirstNet is we had pre-positioned contingency disaster response capabilities right there. So literally from the moment the Air Force notified us that they had communication. Now, first of all, the AT&T network was pretty much available at Tyndall already, but they needed help. So when the Air Force told us that they were in trouble, within just a few hours, AT&T had contingency response resources on base at Tyndall delivering service. We had FirstNet devices, we had FirstNet capability, and we had the base back up and operational that afternoon.
And Bill, you brought up this idea of connected bases, smart bases. Talk about where FirstNet fits in to this discussion we're having.
I think FirstNet comes to play in a lot of ways. So FirstNet, just kind of back up real quick, is an output of the 911 Commission, the 9/11 Commission, where first responders were not able to operate. They were not able to get access to the network that they needed to be on, and it really hindered emergency and disaster response. So you think about the military, think about an installation. Mm-hmm. First responders at that installation, police, fire, rescue, same thing that you have in a local community. And the way the bases are geographically aligned today, most bases are near a community or many communities of some sort, and they have mutual aid packs where they support each other in a disaster. So if a local community has to respond to an incident on an installation or vice versa, we need those first responders to all be on the same sheet of music. They need to be not only on the same network, but FirstNet also brings an app store. It brings IoT devices. It brings a lot of other capabilities besides that foundational network that's available as a priority and preemption kind of capability. You also think about emergency military operations, a national emergency where command authorities need to be able to talk in transit, on the move perhaps. FirstNet is also there for them. So those senior leaders, those senior government leaders, senior military leaders will be able to communicate with their forces, with their interagency counterparts as they're responding.
Jamie, talk a little bit about the Navy's and how they're looking at FirstNet as well, because the Navy has maybe a different problem with ships and shore and different networks and connecting them, and they still have the same though emergency needs, especially, for instance, if they're doing some sort of rescue, even in helping the Coast Guard out or however they need to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a bunch of sort of different use cases and which create entirely different problem sets. If you just think about the base police and fire, right, the sort of the base use case, it's pretty obvious where FirstNet plays in there, right? There's the ability to augment the land mobile radios, to provide data in addition to voice, situational awareness. All that's wonderful, but really that's just picking up what what we would do in the regular public safety world and dropping it into a navy blue uniform there. Things get more interesting when, for instance, you start talking about ships, right? There was a fire on a submarine in a dry dock a few years ago. And you can imagine that land mobile radios don't work real well inside the skin of a metal ship. So how do we make sure that the FirstNet capability is available inside the ships? We're talking with the Navy. We've got some ideas about how to get that working, and that gets really complicated when as Lance said, right, those mutual aid agreements. What happens when the first responder isn't a Navy person, right? When it's the Norfolk City Fire Department, right, who's responding to something that's happening in port. Those guys' FirstNet devices need to work both on the bases and inside the ships as well as they go to respond. We're also looking at the ability to provide. So FirstNet also comes with an IoT capability, and we're looking at ways to use those for whether it's building management, for critical capabilities, right? Making sure that the electricity stays on in a critical function, right? An emergency operations center, right? That's a clear FirstNet use. and getting that all connected, interconnected, and the situational awareness back to where it goes is a really interesting use of FirstNet as well.